Welcome everyone to the Virtual College Exploration Program in partnership with Colleges That Change Lives. This is the Navigate the College Visit session. But before I pass it over to the presenters, I'm going to kick it off with some housekeeping items if you haven't heard these yet. We do have more sessions with CTCL through the evening, so we have a few more times that you can connect with colleges and universities across the nation through tonight. And when you do register for the sessions, you get a barcode in that confirmation email, but know that that barcode is not necessary for any of the virtual events you participate in. We are recording all of these sessions and posting them to our website shortly after the session concludes. So whether you want to rewatch one or watch one you may have missed, just check back on our website for those recordings. And then finally, you will see and hear the presenters, but they can't see or hear you all. This is webinar style format. So any questions you have throughout the presentation, feel free to type those into the Q&A box, and the presenters will do their best to address those throughout the entire session. So I'll pass it over to the team to get us started. Thanks so much for being here.
Wonderful. All right. Thanks, Jen. Let me go ahead and share this. There we go. All right, wonderful. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where we're at. I think we're all in afternoon at this point, unless you're living internationally, possibly. My name is Brooke Hain. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions at McDaniel College, which is located in Westminster, Maryland, about 40 minutes northwest of Baltimore and about an hour northeast of DC.
If we're going to stick with alphabetical, I will jump in. Hi, I am Katie Jordan. My official title is Assistant Director of Admissions and Coordinator of Transfer Student Programming, which was too long to fit on, so we cut that. I'm with Allegheny College. We are in Meadville, Pennsylvania. It's about an hour and a half due north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And hi, everyone. I'm Brittany Kemmer. I'm from St. John's College. I'm one of the assistant directors there. We actually have two campuses. So we have a campus in Annapolis, Maryland, about 45 minutes between Baltimore and DC, or 45 minutes from Baltimore, 45 minutes from DC, kind of in the middle. And we also have a campus in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Wonderful. So we're going to have this split into a couple of sections for you guys. Katie's going to start with the first section, and then I'll have the middle, and Brittany will bring up the end. As Jen mentioned, please feel free to type in questions as we're chatting, or you can leave them till the end, and that works too. So go ahead, Katie.
All right, fantastic. So I am covering a lot of parts today, and my general starting point is, honestly, what is the point of visiting a college? So really just cutting to the heart of it. And I'm gonna go ahead and just start by talking about myself. So with that, I did not graduate from Allegheny. I did not graduate from any of the colleges that changed lives. So I definitely like to joke that my school did not change lives. I am from upstate New York, and I ended up attending Union College, but the story of how I got there, I did not want to attend Union College. It was about 10 minutes away from where I grew up. If I felt ambitious enough, I could walk to the college from my house, which I never did. And so my swim team practiced there, my high school took field trips there, my middle school took field trips there, on and on. Union College was part of my life for as long as I could remember. And so when I was looking at schools, my goal was to get very, very far away because I figured I know everything about Union already. And my mom was determined that it was the best school for me. And spoiler, she kind of tricked me into it because she was like, oh, we'll just go do like a practice college tour and interview, whatever that means, so that when we get to the schools you're really interested in, you'll know what to expect. And as you can guess, the moral of the story is my mom is right about everything. Fell in love with it. The college visit for me changed so much of my life. While there is a bit more to the story, in summary, my college tour at Union has gotten me to where I am today in my 8th year of college admission. So be ready for the college tour to change your life. So with that, again, my mom knows everything is really going to be the theme of my part of this presentation. I want to compare the college search a little bit to dating. So when I was growing up, my mom would always tell me that the point of dating is to kind of find out what I like in another person and what I don't like and what my deal breakers would be for when I was finding a life partner. And so on that note, do you want to commit to 4 years with a person, like, based on pictures and recommendations from other people and a resume? And like, no, that sounds terrible. You probably just want to meet them, get a feel for their personality, and see if you can, imagine being with them. And so going into that, what's the point of building a relationship with a college and with your admissions counselor? And I am fully, oh, no, Brooke, we're still on my other slide. It's okay, you're killing it. I'm biased. I'm super biased in answering this question. And I know that a lot of you here today have very likely already heard the term demonstrated interest. So I'm going to honestly skim over it. So I would rather use this time to talk a little bit about a different perspective for you. Well, you're maybe nervous about visiting colleges online or in person. We are also nervous, not about presenting today per se, but really about we want to make sure that you like us too. I want to present the college search as a very reciprocal relationship for you, in the way that you want us to like you and be admitted to our schools. We also want you to like us, admit you to our schools, and then have you come to our schools. So that's definitely not something that I thought about as a college and high school student, and it's definitely something that I want to say now to hopefully make you feel a little bit calmer about all of this. So with that, my dear Brooke, third slide, I guess. Nailed it. So what do you get out of a campus visit versus website browsing? And I do want to be upfront that I think websites are a great place to start your college search because they can help you understand some of the really big things that you're looking for in a school. So do you want a research institution, a liberal arts school? Do you feel very passionate about rural Pennsylvania as opposed to Maryland, right? Do you have a set idea of majors that you're interested in? Is there an extracurricular that you're passionate about that is maybe a little unusual? Not every school will have it. Like, things like that can give you a really great starting point and very easily found on the website. So this picture on the slide today, just to give you a little bit of a look into a college website, we see some very studious people. You're like, oh my gosh, what a beautiful campus library. I can absolutely see myself studying there. I could sit right under that tree with my roommate and we will be hard at work studying, right? Okay, spoiler, that's not Allegheny. I don't know what it is. I typed college into a stock image search and it came up with that. And I wanted to just mention that I did that because it's important to say that college websites can look really similar. We all have the same photos. We all have some really gorgeous facilities that we want to highlight. So when I'm meeting with people in person, I like to really structure my information sessions and my time to answer the question of what is making Allegheny unique from other small liberal arts schools. And while that is something that can be found on the website with like a lot of determination, it can be a lot easier to do in a conversation. So website, great starting point, probably won't get you all the information that you need to really ultimately decide where you want to go to school. Next slide. Killing it. So before you visit a college, big thing is going to be, as I was just saying, research. Really good to go in with a lot of the basics so that you can get into the more interesting stuff, right? Rather than asking some of the really easy questions, like, I always feel like it's more fun to hear the personal stories, the weird fun facts. Like, my favorite expression is to say fun fact and go on a tangent that maybe you vaguely asked about. And yeah, my friends are nodding because they've met me. And I just think that that's a much better way to get to know the school. So the more you come in, knowing about the college already, the more I get to really dig deep and tell you the more unusual stuff that you might not have gotten to know otherwise. And of course, my friends are going to chat a little bit more about, the interviews, what it looks like during COVID versus not during COVID. But I do want to say, at least be ready to talk about yourself. And that's a big ask, right? Like, let me just sit here and say, know everything about yourself and be ready to tell me. Okay, it doesn't have to be that. But if you know that you're interviewing at a school, if you're ready with, some of the basic things about yourself, it can again make the time a lot more meaningful. So Spoiler, every college is really going to start with something like, hey, are you interested in Allegheny? Why are you interested in McDaniel? Why are you interested in St. John's? A way better answer is, I did some research, I looked at your website, I saw that you have this professor, this major. A really bad answer is, well, my mom made me be here.
Mm-hmm.
Just be ready to talk about yourself. Even if that is the honest and true answer, just spin it. Hey, my mom thought this would be a great fit for me and I'm excited to learn more, right? It's just a positive spin. So be ready to talk about yourself. Brittany is, of course, going to chat a little bit about customizing your visit, but I just wanted to float that if there's things like, there's a professor, a certain coach that you're interested in chatting with if you're planning to do any collegiate athletics, or if there's a special building, anything like that on tour, a lot of schools will let you customize your visit, and you'll find out about that largely ahead of time. And my last slide, my dear. All right, so how do you decide what schools to visit? Here's the funniest joke that I have today. It is, use really one of those standard email templates to just blast a ton of schools that you'd like a free t-shirt and then apply to the ones that send you something.
Yeah.
We love it.
Love it so much.
Or don't.
Please don't, y'all.
Yeah. There's a lot of schools out there, right? And if you try to visit them all, or if you even try to visit too many in a week, it'll blend together and you will hate it. I've seen those exhausted faces. I'm sure we all have. So kind of in the same way that we don't recommend applying to 20 plus schools, don't feel like you have to visit everywhere. So there's going to be a lot of college guides and a lot of free resources out there. So as you can guess from my story, I'm going to say your parents, guardians, older siblings, any older friends, your college guidance counselor, your school counselor, us, college fairs, high school visits, everything like that. I do also want to recommend websites like Big Future, so you can start to narrow down all the schools out there based on program size, atmosphere, everything like that. If you're sitting here today and you're like, I literally don't know, that's also completely fine. My big advice is just start looking with your options closest to home. Go on a tour and see what resonates with you. And also, honestly, what doesn't resonate with you is equally important, can really help you figure out what's best. Mm-hmm. So the other part with that is think about what you have enjoyed most and also least in high school, because your personal experience is ultimately going to be your best frame of reference. So maybe during the past few months, you've spent a little bit more time with yourself than you were planning to. You can really use that to your advantage. And so I don't want to ignore talking about the finances of college, but I do want to say, as a small group of liberal arts colleges, we do really want to encourage you to look beyond just the sticker price of the school, because we're all going to have great scholarships. So just something to be aware of, the net price calculator is a tool unique to every school on all of our websites and can really help you become more comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. And with all of that, wraps up my part.
Yeah, wonderful. So before I get started sort of in where are we in COVID land, this is actually funny because this is sort of the piece that when preparing for this, Brittany, Katie, and I didn't really talk about in terms of personal stories. But I have the exact same story as Katie about how I ended up at McDaniel. So I grew up 20 minutes from McDaniel. I swore I was never going to go there. It was just felt like the other community college option, which is so completely wrong and not true, but was my very much jaded 17-year-old perspective. And my mother drugged me to a visit to say, let's do a practice college visit. We should do one. This one's right down the road. And it was hot and it was humid and it was August. And I was mad the entire time. And I applied the very last deadline. I visited the last admitted student day, which was a Sunday after prom. So clearly I was very receptive to being able to go. And at that point in time, I think y'all will have some type of when we talk about the light bulb moment, when you just know, it's going to be different for everybody. For me, it wasn't any one thing about McDaniel. It wasn't me saying, oh my goodness, it clicks. It was just when I went to admitted student day saying I think I'm going to go here. I can just tell. I have a feeling. I was not elated about it. But you might not be elated by your light bulb moment, right? But you will get a sense of feels like home, what feels comfortable. And I think that's really what we hope and we try to get out of this college visit and building these relationships with you guys, is so that you can figure out, you know, how to do that and what to do. And I will say, you know, that we all recognize that like that gets tricky when everybody's doing something different, or a place may be open, but you are not in a position, you're in California, you're not going to get on a plane to fly to Maryland right now. Or maybe you or someone in your family is at risk and you can't really be going and doing extra things, right? So as colleges, we really are trying, and you'll see our programming continually change at a much more rapid pace than what it would if it was in person, to make sure that we're providing experience for you guys that can give you a sense of who we are in sort of different layers of that. So as we go in here, I wanted to break down a little bit just like what some of these different things mean. I know they seem pretty straightforward, and I know you guys as students who are looking at CTCL schools may already have sort of a framework for this, but it's something that I've certainly noticed in the last 6 months that we've been doing all of this stuff online, that sometimes it doesn't seem like students always know exactly what they signed up for, right? You're just like, I know I want to sign up for a visit, or my mom told me to sign up, or like, and I just don't really know where to start. So I picked a thing, and then you get into the thing and you go, oh, this is like not nearly as personal as I needed it to be, or this is like way more personal than I was looking for, right? So information sessions, many of us are doing these virtually. I will say, of my friends at CTCL schools that I know of, most of us are doing them live. So they're not just like a stock recording that you're probably going to see at a bigger institution, which you should certainly check out. But the smaller schools, we do have a little bit more ability to be adept, and our priority is students first and to build those relationships. So most of those are live. Some of them will do them through Zoom. Others are through the Slate platform, which is a database many of us use. And that functions much like this does, where we can't see or hear you. You can just type in questions. Information sessions are general overview. Information sessions are very typically taking the website and solidifying it into like a 30-minute, a 45-minute conversation or presentation. So information sessions are a great place to start if you're like, oh, I've heard of St. John's College and I did a little bit of research, but I'm not really sure about details, or I just want some more context or personality to those details, right? Then go ahead and do an information session. You'll be able to ask questions for sure. It's not, you don't need to like sit there as a robot, right? But if you are someone, yes, please don't. But if you are someone that tends to be a little bit more introverted, or doesn't, you know, really just learns information by absorbing, and then you want to email questions later, an information session is a good place to start for that. Interviews. So some of us are doing these in person. Some of us are doing these via Zoom. Some of us are not doing them at all, right? Every school is doing them differently. An interview is typically something that, while it is ultimately a conversation, you'll hear most of us at liberal arts schools say like, this interview is not evaluative, and it is a conversation between you and me to get to know each other, right? Like if you've done a visit, you've heard this at this point. But it is something that's sort of run by the admissions rep, right? It's something where we have a list of questions to help guide you through the conversation, and then we leave questions for you at the end. Sometimes these are evaluative. So either they're showing demonstrated interest, or they are a piece of the application process. Maybe there's certain things that college is looking for you to say or have gained knowledge about, right? Versus a counselor conversation, which are really super casual. So at McDaniel, we don't do interviews at all. We do counselor conversations. And really what that is if you've already done an info session, you've already done a bunch of research online, you have a lot of very specific questions, or you know that you're going to be you're the person in class that always has their hand up. It was me. So like, it's fine. I understand the compulsion, but if you are that person, you have a whole list of questions you're asking every single school and putting them in a spreadsheet. you're gonna wanna either sign up for a counselor conversation or reach out to your admissions rep and say, hey, can we set up a time to do a phone call or a Zoom session? Because if you do that, first of all, interviews can tend to be timed, so you may not get the chance to answer or ask all your questions. Secondly, information sessions can sometimes be 1 or 2 people, but other times they can be 10 or 15 people. And so if you're the person that's always putting questions in, it can be difficult for us to make sure that we're just getting everybody all of the information that they need, right? And then if we end up saying, you know, John, I would love to answer your questions, but we don't have time at the end, then you as a student feel like we haven't served you, right? So if you have the option to do a counselor conversation or reach out for those individual ones, look for that. Tours. Some of us are open. McDaniel College is open. Here's my personal plug. If you're looking to do a tour, you're within driving distance, come on down. You can come visit campus. We are open. So if campuses are open and it's something that you feel comfortable doing, take advantage of it. It is going to be modified. I'll get to that in a minute. Like, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you're not going to probably be able to see. But ultimately try to do it. If you can't do an in-person tour, either because of your own situation or like St. John's is not open. So for that reason, that's when we do want to utilize tools such as virtual tours if a school has them. I know for some of my students, we've done FaceTime tours. So, you know, we've set up a time with an ambassador that the ambassador takes them out on FaceTime and does the regular tour, but then it's something that is live. It's a little bit more interactive. It's not just like a stock tour. And while we all look different, like Katie said, we all have the same goal in mind, right? So like we all do look the same in some ways, and there's only a couple of virtual tour platforms. So a lot of them end up looking the same. If you don't see anything virtual offered, again, that's why we're here. Reach out to us. Say, hey, Brooke, I'd love to visit McDaniel. We don't have a virtual tour. So I don't see a virtual tour. Can you get me set up with something? And like, we're happy to do that for you. Either Brittany or Katie, are there any questions yet? I just want to make sure. I can't see the question box.
I was keeping an eye on it. There is nothing yet. Don't you worry.
Wonderful. Awesome. So change due to COVID. Class visits, you are no longer going to be able to do, right? Like many, if not all of you are probably online or hybrid. So with social distancing and being able to track and things like that, class visits are no longer an option. So it will be even more imperative that if you want to know very specifically about a certain subject or professor, to connect with your admissions counselor. And those professors, especially at a small school, are more than willing to Zoom or to phone call or to email with you, whatever you feel comfortable with. But they're not just going to punch you to their website. They're going to give you more information about that, so long as you reach out. Overnight visits, those are a way no-go for the same reason. At McDaniel, we are on campus for students, and they can live on campus if they want to. Their students aren't even allowed in each other's rooms, and you can't have any visitors coming in. So that also means you're not going to be able to get into a dorm room on a tour if you go in person. Many of us, again, we created very specific tours to put online before we left in March, to make sure, knowing that like, oh, we're not going to be able to see inside the dining hall or the dorm room, and to give you that sense. But there is that. Athletic event visits. So whether you are an athlete or you're just someone who likes that sort of sports culture, you want to go to a school with school spirit, don't expect to be able to come to like a football event. Football is canceled. For Centennial Conference, which is what McDaniel's a part of, all competitive sport competition is canceled through December 31st. And then we'll evaluate and sort of see from there. So don't anticipate anything like that. Again, I think this is a lot of common sense. Y'all are smart, but just a reminder. Large in-person visit programs are obviously not going to be happening in person. You'll see those continue to happen in a virtual manner. Every school's going to do it differently. I think we'll sort of wait to see what happens for spring and whether anybody's able to have admitted student days, but also know that if we can, admitted student days will look very different. They're not going to be, we'll probably still be distancing at that point. So, again, utilizing those individual opportunities. Dining hall visits and vouchers, no go. You're not going to be able to eat in the dining hall. So, that's something that you'll want to connect with student ambassadors on, which I'll talk to about in a minute. And then just, again, tours in general, depending on the institution, about whether they are offering them, and then if they are, what that entails. At this point, a McDaniel tour, when I did one yesterday, is running like 30 to 45 minutes. They're typically more like an hour to an hour and 15. But because we can't go in the student center, we can't go in the dining hall, we can't go in a dorm room, right? They get condensed. So if you are going to be traveling a little bit further for a visit, that is something that you may want to ask about. I know sometimes I feel badly if I have a family who's come all the way up from Florida, and then our tour is done in 30 minutes because they didn't bring any questions with them, and I can only show them so much. And I've talked about everything to talk about in a visit, and they just drove up, 20 hours for 30 minutes, right? Which that can be a very impactful 30 minutes, certainly, that you can walk on and say, yeah, like this feels good. I like this. But that is something that you may want to explore depending on how far you're traveling. All right. So discovering what you want. This is, some similar questions worded a little differently than of what Katie had mentioned. But this is how you can sort of figure out not only what kind of college you want to visit, but also what kind of event you want to sign up for. You can also do 10 different events. So, these are things that if you have, obviously, internet access, computer access, those may be things that you're also needing to work with, right? So if you are someone that's saying, I can really only sign up for one thing per school because of my school hours, because I only have internet for a certain period of time during the day, I don't have my own laptop, I don't have a laptop, then, you may want to be a little bit more decisive. So do you want a general look or individual experience? We talked about that. Are you able to visit a campus in person? So if you live 20 minutes from McDaniel, come and visit. And if you like the way that it feels, then, and you're going, this is way too close to home, I'm not going to go here, I want to go somewhere else, then you can use that Colleges That Change Lives book to look at the schools that are on the West Coast. If you're like, I want to be West Coast for sure, but I know that this type of environment is what I'm looking for, you can get a little bit of information that way. I tell students, particularly here in Maryland, I say, visit us, go visit University of Maryland, figure out what you like, and then you can sort of go from there to go further. Are you an observatory learner or an active learner? Are you someone that just likes to sit and absorb again, or are you someone who really wants to consistently ask questions? And that can help to determine too. And then again, we went over this. So your questions that you may have. Do you have a full detailed list of unique questions? Do you just have a couple of questions that might benefit the whole group, right? So detailed questions could be things like, I have a learning disability. Here is what my 504 is. I want to know about academic support services for my specific disability. I'm going to advise and encourage you not to do a general information session. If those are the types of questions you're going to have, we have answers, we want to answer them for you. That's generally not an appropriate place to be able to do them. Are you just saying, are you all test optional? What do you want to see in the essay? Do you have an academic support office? Things that are a little more general, that can be good for either a conversation or an info session. Can you find your answers on the website? Websites are good tools. They are a great place to start. So again, y'all are CTCL people, so usually you guys have really good questions that you've thought through for us, but don't go into an information session, please, for the love, and ask, do you have a biology program? I promise you every single one of us has a biology program in some way, shape, or form. So, to come in and say, do you have this specialization in your bio program? Or in an individual conversation, I did research on this professor, I want to know more about this. Totally appropriate. But if it's something that's really general, please use the website. I am happy to answer questions. I love doing it. I'm also not your human Google machine. There's Google and a search bar for that, right? So utilize those tools. That's what you can do at 1 a.m. when you can't sleep. Don't text me then, because you won't get a response until the next day. Wonderful. then, here are sort of the ways in which we can layer these experiences. So again, you don't need to just pick one. Ultimately, we want you to engage with us in more than one way. That may be that you're doing 10 virtual visits. That may be that you do one virtual and one in person later. But we want you to layer these. So start with the website. Utilize websites to gather your general information. Things like, are you on the Common App? Are you test optional? That sort of stuff. Start with virtual information session to gather a sense of place. So if you really just want to get a sense of what is the personality of an institution, you can really start to get that through an information session. Scheduling an interview or conversation to go more in depth. So you do the information session and now we have more things that we want to know. Reach out to your admissions counselor, do some follow-up. Connect with student ambassadors. So we do ambassador hangouts once a week at McDaniel. And we also will connect students individually. So you're saying, I'm a student coming from California. I want to connect with someone from California. Like, we can make that happen, but they're great tools. While many of us are alums, or if we're not alums, we went to small liberal arts colleges, that like, we can give you these things. I also realized that I started college over 10 years ago. And while that's really not that long ago, it's a completely different world than like what y'all have and will experience. And we recognize that, and recognize that even if what I have to say is true, it coming from a 20-year-old's mouth that's experiencing it feels a little bit more reliable and valuable than me, who just got on TikTok during quarantine, like because I was bored, right? And I infiltrated your space. Like, we apologize. We were bored. That's what it was about. So, really working with all of those resources. Attend specialized virtual visits for departments. A lot of us have and will continue to do these into the fall. So doing a STEM visit program and just doing that virtually instead of in person. But that's a great way to, again, figure out, how am I going to learn in a classroom at this particular school? Set up email, phone calls, Zooms with professors or different campus offices. So if a school isn't having specialized admitted students days, you really want to learn more about diversity initiatives on campus. And I've already talked to you about them. You've talked to an ambassador, and you really want to talk with the director of diversity or with a specific diversity club. Then reach out to your counselor and we can get that set up for you. And then again, do a campus visit if it's possible for you. Again, we understand that it's not possible for every single person. At McDaniel, Brittany's going to talk about this in a minute, but for McDaniel specifically, if you visit before completing your application, you're automatically eligible for $4,000 in additional scholarship. So you get $1,000 a year. We are counting virtual visits in that. So if you can come on campus, that's great. Virtual works too. But again, a lot of factors go into visiting in person, where you're coming from, how long, far of a drive it is. Are we at risk? Is somebody working in a essential worker sort of role? All of those things. And we understand that. And, again, all of us being small schools and small admissions offices, we get to know you very individually as students. And we can also be really flexible with the types of experiences that we try to offer and really sort of navigate and adapt to that. I see a question. And so
it's a big question that I'm going to save until after Brittany talks.
Yeah. I was going to say, it kind of dovetails really nicely with what I'm going to talk about, so I can go ahead and address it. And if you guys want to weigh in, please do.
Yes.
So I'm going to talk a little bit more about kind of taking all of this information and organizing it into what really, is a good general guideline for what it looks like over the course of 4 years. So the question specifically that I'm going to go ahead and answer a little bit here is, what do you think the college admissions process will look like 2 years in the future for current freshmen and sophomores? So I am going to talk about just generally what I think freshmen and sophomores should be focusing on in terms of kind of the college visit selection process. In terms of what it'll look like in 2 years, I'm going to give a very hopeful answer, which is, my hope is we will be back to having more in-person events, in-person visits available. We'll be able to welcome you onto campus in person. But I honestly think we'll also you'll notice that while we might not maintain the high number of virtual opportunities that we're all kind of offering at this point, I do think there will be a lot more virtual opportunities available. So early on, especially for students who aren't quite ready to kind of commit to the finances and the time to travel to a college, I would still recommend taking advantage of those. And you'll hear me say that a couple of times. I do now feel like I need to share a little bit about my college journey, since everybody else has. and I don't want to be left out. So I actually had a slightly different journey than both Brooke and Katie, which is I had a top choice college that I really wanted to go to. It was very far away. So I guess in that sense, we all aligned. It was very far away from where my family was. I was a first-gen college student. So what I learned very quickly that I didn't know and that my family didn't know was that I could not afford the college that I had chosen and had gotten into. And I didn't find that out until later in the process because I didn't know to ask those questions. So this is my plug for please ask us questions. If you have questions, ask them, both about the college, but also about financial aid. We're usually a great resource for those initial questions. Sorry, little personal plug. So I actually ended up taking a gap year. I did a lot of things over the course of that gap year. I volunteered, I had an internship, I worked full-time for a lot of the year. Again, personal plug, if you're gonna do a gap year, you should have a plan for what you're gonna do. They can be a great resource, but you should have a plan and be able to articulate it. And I ended up at a different college than I expected. I had the experience of, I went to the college for a weekend, for a longer visit. And I still vividly remember sitting in the audience for this panel and seeing this person on the panel and thinking, oh my gosh, that person is so articulate and poised and confident, and I want to be that person in 4 years. And that was kind of the moment that I was like, this is really where I want to be. If this school can kind of turn out a person like that, this is where I want to be. So kind of reverting back to over the course of 4 years of high school, what is kind of what I would say the general guidelines for the best college visit process look like? So in early high schools, that would be kind of current freshmen and sophomores. I know we probably have a variety of you here from all 4 years of high school, is really to kind of see what's out there. Do your research, as both Katie and Brooke have said, take a look at some different websites, use books. I highly recommend Colleges That Change Lives as a place to begin. And talk to your family members, to older siblings, to aunts, uncles, whomever, favorite teachers about where they went to college and what they liked about it, and maybe even what they didn't like. But use that time to really just kind of put out feelers in a lot of different directions. By junior year, I would say you should kind of have what I'll call like the long list of colleges that you want to explore. I have here cast a wide net. What I mean by that is junior year, I don't think you should be really hemming yourself in. So if something piques your interest, great, put it on the list and invest a little bit more time into researching it. Keep an open mind. And again, explore your options. You might be surprised by things that catch your eye, or by things as you move through junior year, like things that rise up in importance that as a freshman, maybe you didn't think going to a small college was important, but by the end of junior year, you've realized, oh, like I really work better when I know my teachers and have a relationship with them, as opposed to maybe when I don't. By senior year, that's really where you're narrowing your focus. You're looking for engagement opportunities. This is the time to really kind of look for those one-on-one conversations, to approach the interview, to really get to know your admissions counselor. I mean, one of the things that I think Katie and Brooke have both acknowledged but haven't said explicitly is there are oftentimes, as your counselor, we are kind of your cheerleader. You know, our job is not to be the big scary troll under the bridge guarding the gates. Our job is to help you understand who we are and what we do, and to help you, put together the best pieces of the best application that's going to put the best you forward, to really set you up for success. That is our job. It's not to be the gatekeepers. Can I get the next slide, Brooke?
Yes, ma'am.
So looking more specifically what that might look like, again, in early high school, web browsing, college publications, books like Colleges That Change Lives, and talking to family and friends. Junior year, making that wish list. And I would say add 2 to 3 colleges. I'm saying 2 to 3 with the assumption that there's maybe 7 to 9 colleges already on your list. Add 2 to 3 colleges that, you might not like at the outset, but that challenge that list in some way. So for example, if your wish list is all schools that are all in California, because you've decided that California living is just really what's for you, look for a couple of the other details that might be common to those colleges in California, and pick a college in the Midwest, pick a college on the East Coast that maybe have some of those qualities, because again, you might surprise yourself. And if you force yourself a little bit outside of the bubble, you might learn different pieces, whether you end up in California or not. You just might learn some different pieces that will be really valuable as you move forward. And I would say for right now, especially, use virtual visits to your advantage. like juniors, you have all of these colleges right now that are really kind of putting out a ton of programming, a ton of opportunities, and you don't have to spend the money to go anywhere. Use that to your advantage. Same thing for early high school, I should mention. A lot of colleges are doing kind of like virtual open houses. Those are great introductions to colleges when you're just kind of in that information gathering stage. As you move to senior year, this is where you're really, again, you're narrowing. So based on the visits that you've done, the interactions you've had with the college, narrow your list. Bring that list down to really, somewhere between, I'm going to go ahead and put out the number of 2 to 4, to be honest with you. 2 to 4 colleges that you're really serious about, like colleges that you're seriously considering applying. Reach out to them directly. Ask them what they have available. Ideally by this point, you've done kind of maybe like a webinar or something with a bunch of colleges. So ask for those interactive opportunities. Ask to talk with faculty, ask to talk with staff members, things like that. And especially for CTCL schools, I'm going to go out there, interview, or do that one-on-one counselor conversation if they don't do interviews, because it is a huge opportunity to just have some undivided attention with someone who's, again, there to be your cheerleader, there to help you and kind of make you look good to whatever the committee is that's reviewing the application. Spoiler, at St. John's, we do have a committee that reviews your application. We are but one part of that. So having someone kind of in your corner is a huge advantage. Go ahead for the next one, Brooke. What else can you explore? So Brooke and Katie kind of mentioned some of the opportunities that you might have. These vary based on colleges. So again, I sound a little bit like a broken record. Reach out to your admission counselors. This is why we're here. Some academic opportunities that might be offered are occasionally class observations. So for example, we would normally offer them in person. At St. John's, if you are a current senior planning to apply, you do have the opportunity to reach out and ask to observe the virtual classes that are happening. Not all colleges are going to be able to offer things like that, but some will, so reach out and ask. Faculty connections, ask to meet one-on-one with faculty members. Ask if there are any faculty conversations or faculty panels that we're doing virtually. Again, speaking particularly for this year. Ask about those academic support systems. What does it look like if you're not doing well? How does that get communicated to you? What are the resources in place to help you do better? Extracurricularly, those athletic opportunities, talking with the coaches, talking with possible teammates, looking at other student clubs and activities. If you're really involved in student government currently, ask what the student government looks like. Ask if you can talk to a representative on the student government. Same with music and the arts. If you are a fine arts person and it's really important to you to, have a drawing and painting studio that's open 24/7, regardless of if you're a fine arts major, that's a thing St. John's has. So again, personal plug there. But ask those questions because you want to make sure that we have the facilities and the support to kind of help you through these 4 years. And again, just highlighting those interactive opportunities. Meet with current students. Ask to be put in touch via email with a student in your major or involved in something you're interested in. Meet with administrative offices. Apart from us, there's financial aid. If you have really specific questions about your financial aid or your family's situation, they are a great resource to meet with. Career services opportunities. Those are other offices we can also get you to meet with. And again, just pushing the interview. Please take advantage. Next slide, Brooke.
Britt, literally the last thing I want to do is cut you off, but we are at a grand total of 2 remaining minutes.
Yes.
Oh no.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and real quickly, how else can you get to know a college fly-in program? Some colleges will actually pay for you to come and visit. Summer opportunities. They have summer academies or summer academic opportunities and application workshops. You're going to see a ton of those this year because we're able to do them virtually.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. I did see another question. Olivia, you have some
Great
really
questions.
For us to tackle. Favorite questions or interactions you've had with students during the process or in college visits? That can go one of 2 ways, okay? Favorite, most memorable, had a student drove all the way from Minnesota to Maryland to interview with me because her mother told her to, wore her pajamas to the interview, took a nap on the couch in the lobby, and then in the interview, every question that I asked just said, because my mom told me to. And so, don't do that. She did find us through CTCL and was only looking at CTCL options. So this does not discriminate, but that would probably be a memorable one. I think ultimately Brittany and Katie have probably had these experiences too, just in general, that when you build relationships with us, then we continue to be sort of a part of your journey over the next 4 years. So this just happened to me the other night. Move-in happened for us this weekend. Checked in with one of my students I've been working with all year, right? Like we've met in person, we've talked on the phone a bunch. Jaren texts in, I said, look, you have my number. You text me if you need anything. I cannot solve all the problems for the next 4 years, right? But I can get you to the resources still. You can still use me. I get a text message at about 11 o'clock on Friday night that just says, help, there's no TP. Where's the RA? This is a football player. And it was like, Jaren, not quite sure, but you could maybe check another floor, right? Like we want to be that advocate for you. We're a piece of this puzzle. And like, we are still here because we loved going to college. And this is a way for us to get other people to love that too, and to keep going to college. And so you can continue to reach out to us. I had one of my students, he and his uncle sent me flowers apparently to the office today, which like you don't need to do, but it does make us feel good when you send us thank you notes and things like that. But like, you can build those kinds of relationships, that this isn't something, particularly in CTCL, where it is a transactional relationship in any way. This is a relationship that's going to be built between you, your family, possibly your high school guidance counselor, depending on what kind of school you go to, and your admissions rep. It's all of us working together to be able to get that to you. So wonderful.
And really quickly, that last question that came in, I don't know if CTCL is sending the PowerPoint out specifically, but there is a recording that is available, so you are welcome to review.
Totally. Thanks. Great way to end. Thank you so much to the presenters. Yes, the recording will be available on the website later on this afternoon, and we will be sure that they all get your information as well. So the conversation definitely doesn't have to stop here.
I don't know who said reach out to us, but we'd love to hear from any of you.
Wonderful. So I hope everyone enjoyed their time. Thank you so much for coming. More sessions through this evening if you're interested in looking at what's left. And as you exit the Zoom webinar, you will be taken to a quick survey. It's only 4 questions, so we'd love to hear your feedback regarding this particular session. So I hope everyone has a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. And once again, thank you so much to the presenters for being here. Have a great day.
Thank you.